Hello, I'm Tereza. Today I'll show you how to make Black Forest entremet. My entremet consists of flourless chocolate sponge cake, milk chocolate ganache, chocolate crunch, chocolate crema, cherry and kirsch jelly, white chocolate and vanilla mousse, red mirror glaze, chocolate truffle, and white chocolate decorations. First, I'll make gelatin mess. To do that, I will put of powdered platinum grade gelatin and cold water into a bowl. I will mix well to hydrate the gelatin and leave this mixture on the counter for about 10 minutes. My gelatin is now properly hydrated and I know that because the mixture is firm and compact. I'll microwave it on low heat until it completely melts. As you can see, my gelatin mixture is now in liquid form, so I will put it in the fridge to set. My gelatin mass is now firm, so I will take it out from the bowl and cut it into pieces. I will store it in the fridge for a couple of days, but not longer because it will become moldy, so keep that in mind, okay? Use the desired quantity as needed. If you prefer gelatin sheets, you can soak them in cold water until they soften. Then take them out and squeeze to get rid of the excess water and use as described in the recipe. Flourless chocolate sponge cake. To make flourless chocolate sponge cake, I will put egg whites into a bowl of a stand mixer fitted with whisk attachment. I'll mix on medium speed until soft peaks form. Then I'll gradually add sugar and continue mixing until firm peaks form. I will add egg yolks and incorporate them with my silicone spatula. Then I will add sifted cocoa powder and mix until the mixture becomes uniform. I'll pipe the mixture into 16 centimeters, which is 6 inches in diameter cake ring, using my 10 millimeters, which is 3/8 of an inch tip, and bake at 180 degrees centigrade, which is 350 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 10 minutes. Then I will leave it to cool down. Next, I'll make milk chocolate ganache. I have melted my milk chocolate in the microwave on low heat, and now I'll add cream that I've previously also heated in the microwave. I'll stir with a whisk until ganache becomes uniform. Then I'll pour it on the cooled flourless chocolate sponge cake. I will smooth it with my small spatula and put everything in the freezer to set. To make chocolate crunch, besides dark chocolate and praline paste, I will need feuilletine, French biscuit crunch. It may be difficult for you to find it in your neighborhood store, so I will show you how to make it at home. You can make a large batch, but store it in a well-sealed container because it tends to soak moisture. Feuilletine. To make feuilletine, I'll put melted butter, egg whites, powdered sugar and flour into a bowl. I will stir with a whisk to combine. Then I'll mix with my hand mixer until the mixture becomes uniform. There shouldn't be any lumps in the mixture. I'll pour the mixture onto a paper-lined baking tray. Then I'll spread it as thinly as possible using my small spatula. I'll bake at 180 degrees centigrade, which is 350 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 5 to 7 minutes until golden. My feuilletine is done and cooled, so now I'll crush it into small pieces. Make sure you store it in a well-sealed container. Chocolate crunch. To make chocolate crunch, I've placed praline paste into a bowl. I'll add melted dark chocolate and feuilletine and mix with a silicone spatula until well combined. I'll transfer the mixture onto a cooled milk chocolate ganache. Then I'll spread it with the back of the spoon and put it in the freezer to set. Chocolate crema. Crema is a French name for filling that is exceptionally creamy and rich with velvety, melt-in-your-mouth feel. Shortly, it is extra yummy. To make chocolate crema, first I need to make crema glaze. I'll briefly whisk egg yolks in a bowl. I will put cream, milk and glucose syrup into a saucepan and heat it up. When cream and milk start to steam, I will temper the yolks with approximately half of the heated cream and milk mixture. I'll stir well with a whisk. Then I will put everything back in the pan. I'll give it a light stir. I will put the pan back on the stove, insert the probe of my digital candy thermometer into the mixture, and cook, stirring constantly until the temperature reaches 80 degrees centigrade, which is 176 degrees Fahrenheit. I have just made crema glaze. Now I will remove the pan from the stove. I will add the gelatin mass and stir until it melts. I broke both milk and dark chocolate into small pieces so they can melt easily. I will put the bowl in the microwave and warm it up on low heat, stirring every 10 to 15 seconds. My chocolate is almost melted, and now I'll just continue stirring until it completely melts. I will strain crema glaze into melted chocolate. I'll stir with a whisk to combine. Now I will mix it with the immersion blender to emulsify. My chocolate crema is now ready, so I'll pour it on the frozen chocolate crunch. I will shake the mold and tap it against the counter to roughly even the surface of the cream. To smooth it completely, I'll use a small spatula and then put everything back in the freezer to set. Cherry and kirsch jelly. To make cherry jelly, I've put sugar into a bowl. I'll add pectin and stir to combine. I will put cherries and cherry puree into a saucepan. I will heat this mixture to 50 degrees centigrade, which is 122 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, I'll add sugar and pectin mixture and continue cooking until the mixture boils. Then I will cook for a couple of minutes, stirring constantly. I'll remove the pan from the heat, add gelatin mass and stir until it melts. I will add kirsch liqueur. I'm gonna pour cherry jelly on top of the frozen chocolate crema and smooth it with my small spatula. Now I'll put my entremet in the freezer and leave it there until it sets. White chocolate mousse. To make white chocolate mousse, I've put milk into a bowl and now I'll add vanilla powder and stir with a whisk. I'll heat this mixture in the microwave. My milk is hot and now I'll add gelatin mass and stir until it melts. I've melted white chocolate in the microwave on low heat. Now I will pour the hot milk mixture into the melted white chocolate and stir to combine. I will leave this mixture to cool down a bit. I'll mix whipping cream in a stand mixer fitted with whisk attachment on medium speed until soft peaks form. My chocolate and milk mixture has cooled to 30 degrees centigrade, which is 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I will add it to whipped cream and mix with a silicone spatula until the mixture becomes uniform. Assembly. To remove the insert from the mold, first I will separate it using my small knife. Then I'll remove the ring. Now I will line 18 centimeters, which is 7 inches cake ring with acetate strip. I will put the cake ring over the insert and on the cake board. To make sure that my insert is exactly in the middle, I'll check the gap using my 10 mm, which is 3/8 of an inch popsicle stick. Now I'll pour white chocolate mousse into the mold. To prevent leaking, I will make the seal using only a small quantity of mousse, just to cover the bottom of the mold. Then I'll put everything in the freezer for 5 minutes until it sets. My cake ring is now sealed, so I can fill the mold all the way to the top. I will level the top with my spatula. Then I'll put my entremet back in the freezer until it is frozen solid. Red mirror glaze. To make red mirror glaze, I'll put sugar and water into a saucepan and put the lid on. When the mixture boils, I'll remove the lid, add glucose syrup, and insert the probe of my digital candy thermometer into the syrup. When the temperature reaches 103 degrees centigrade, which is 217 degrees Fahrenheit, I will remove the pan from the stove and pour the syrup over sweetened condensed milk. I'll mix with a whisk, add gelatin mass and continue mixing until it melts. Then I will add white chocolate and blend the mixture with immersion blender to emulsify. I have transferred my glaze into a measuring cup, and now I'll add powdered red liposoluble coloring. I'll blend it with immersion blender until the coloring dissolves. Then I'll cover the glaze with cling film and leave it in the fridge until tomorrow. White chocolate decorations. To make white chocolate strip, I've prepared 2.5 centimeters, which is 1 inch wide, and 56 centimeters, which is 22 inches long, acetate strip. Now I'll pipe tempered white chocolate onto the acetate strip. I will spread the chocolate using my small spatula. I will immediately transfer the strip onto a clean surface and leave it for a couple of minutes until the chocolate starts to set. I'll line the outer rim of the 18 centimeters, which is 7 inches in diameter cake ring with acetate strip, which I'm gonna tape so it doesn't fall off the mold. My chocolate started to set, so now I will put the chocolate strip around the mold and put everything in the fridge to set. To make chocolate triangles, I've prepared 3 acetate strips. All my acetate strips are 5 centimeters, which is 2 inches wide. The length of the strips is 10 centimeters, which is 4 inches, 12.5 centimeters, which is 5 inches, and 15 centimeters, which is 6 inches respectively. I will pipe tempered white chocolate onto each strip. Now I'll spread the chocolate using my small spatula. Then I will immediately transfer the strips onto a clean surface, and I will leave them until the chocolate starts to set. The chocolate started to set, and now I will gently cut each strip diagonally with the tip of my knife to make 2 triangles. I will make shallow incisions because I only want to cut the chocolate and not the acetate. I line the outer rim of the 18 cm, which is 7 inches in diameter cake ring with acetate strip and tape it so the acetate doesn't fall off the mold. I will stick my strips around the mold and I will put them in the fridge until the chocolate completely sets. To prepare the coloring, I've melted my white chocolate in the microwave on low heat. I will add melted cocoa butter and red liposoluble coloring and stir with a whisk until combined. I've transferred the mixture into a shallow flat container. I will leave this to cool to 32 degrees centigrade, which is 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I will dip one side of each white chocolate triangle into the mixture. Then I'll wait for a couple of seconds until the coloring drips down, and then I'll put them onto a plate and in the fridge so that the coloring can set. Chocolate truffles. To make chocolate truffles, I've melted my dark chocolate in the microwave on low heat. I will add cream that I've also heated in the microwave and stir with the whisk until combined. Now I will add softened butter and stir until it is incorporated. I will add kirsch liqueur and stir well. I will cover my ganache with cling film and leave it at room temperature until it becomes pipeable. I've put my ganache into a piping bag with 10 mm, which is 3/8 of an inch tip, and now I'll pipe blobs onto a parchment paper. I will put this in the fridge to set. My ganache is set, and now I'll roll each blob between my hands to make a ball. I will put them in the fridge again for about 10 to 15 minutes. I will dip my truffle into tempered white chocolate and transfer it onto a clean surface. I will leave the chocolate to set. Then I will dip my truffle in tempered white chocolate once more and transfer it onto a clean plate. I will pull the strands of white chocolate using my dipping fork to get spiky effect, and then I will leave my truffle to set. To decorate my truffle, I will dip a paintbrush into red coloring mixture and paint random smudges all over the truffle. I will leave the coloring to set. Glazing and decorating. To properly prepare the glaze, you need to follow the procedure as follows. Melt your red mirror glaze in the microwave on low heat until the temperature reaches 40 degrees centigrade, which is 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Leave it to cool down to 35 degrees centigrade, which is 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Use the glaze immediately. I've removed my entremet from the mold and put it onto a smaller ring mold. Now I'll pour my red mirror glaze onto my entremet and leave the excess glaze to drip down. I will carefully place my white chocolate strip around my entremet. Now I will place my white and red chocolate triangles onto my entremet. Finally, I'll put the truffle in its place. I would advise you to store your entremet in the fridge for a couple of hours and let it defrost slowly and gradually. There, my Black Forest entremet is done. I hope that you liked my video and that it was informative and fun to watch. Until next time, my dear sweetness lovers, I wish you all the best, and remember, create sweetness all day long because sweetness is happiness. See ya!